Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and I got some good news, and I also have some bad news. Right before Super Bowl 59, reminder, Jeremy Chuggs and I, we're going to be live tomorrow before the big game. We're going to get started an hour before kickoff, so 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be rooting on the Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully everybody ends up showing up. It's going to be a good time. We had almost 500,000 people join us last year. I'm hoping that we get close to 1 million people that watch us tomorrow. It's going to be an electric fest. You're not going to want to miss it. So the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to start with the bad news because I want to finish today on some good news, and that's just the way that I want to get us Saturday. It's beautiful here in Dallas, and if you don't know, the Mavs play today for the first time without Luka, and that's must watch, man. Must watch. So the first thing is this. I saw, and this one happened late last night, and I was already asleep when it happened. Gerlad Alexander is no longer the Raiders safety coach. And Alexander was somebody that I liked a lot. We originally got him from the Pittsburgh Steelers the year before. And, funny enough, Alexander is heading back to Pittsburgh to be the safeties coach. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, oh, wow, I thought our coaching staff was kind of getting locked in. And I'm not going to lie to you, I did too. But I am a big believer that timing is everything in the NFL. And if you guys remember, I talked about this late on my show on Thursday, right before I was getting ready to head out. And Joe Woods and Marcus Robinson, they were hired. So Joe Woods, he was hired to be a part of this Raiders staff, and he's going to be the defensive pass game coordinator. Marcus Robinson was hired to be a secondary coach. The reason why that I bring that up is because the Raiders were expected to keep Ricky Manning Jr., he was a cornerback coach. The Raiders were expected to keep Gerlad Alexander, a safety coach. Now, when you're expecting that you're going to keep those guys and you don't, and then you end up bringing somebody else in, well, the thing that should go through your mind is this the replacement plan for Alexander and for somebody like Ricky Manning Jr.? And I'm just going to take a shot in the dark, and I'm going to say that I do. I think that this is the Raiders' plan to try to figure out a little bit of a replacement. Now, for those that do not know, Joe Woods was the Raiders DB coach back in 2014. And one of the things that I love that the Raiders are doing this year, and again, we always look at Chip Kelly, you look at Patrick Graham, you talk about Spytek, you talk about Pete Carroll, and we know how important it is to have depth on an NFL roster if you want to win the ultimate goal, which is a Super Bowl, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. Also having a really deep coaching staff that can help really build a roster. And for a team like the Raiders that has 28 free agents, a lot of salary cap, you need to also have a lot of good depth at your coaching positions where, when the Raiders brought in Greg Olsen, I think is a perfect example of this. When the Raiders brought in Greg Olsen back to be the quarterback coach, I don't think that he's built to be an OC, but he's a phenomenal quarterback coach. And I think when you look at a name like Joe Woods, you bring him in, who's got multiple years of being a defensive coordinator for the Browns, for the Saints. So he was the Browns DC from 2020 to 2022, Saints DC from 2023 to 2024. He was the Broncos defensive coordinator from 2017 to 2018. My point with all of this is, you can say what you want about Joe Woods being a DC. When you bring in somebody that has that much just coordinator experience and has worked with a bunch of different teams, he's worked with the 49ers. That's a great staff right there. The Broncos, that's a hell of a staff. And I get it, the Browns and the Saints maybe the past 2 years, but we also got to give the Saints some credit the past 2 years. The reason why they were winning football games, and I know a lot of y'all might want to say it's because of Derek Carr, they were winning football games because of that defense. So we got to tip our cap here a little bit to Joe Woods, but then also you bring in Woods' right-hand man in a sense, and Marcus Robinson. And the reason why that I say that is because if you told a lot of Raiders fans out there, we're bringing back Rob Leonard, some people might look at you and they're like, all right, well, what does that mean? You should be fired up about Rob Leonard because he's a really solid coach. I'm not saying Marcus Robinson is Rob Leonard in terms of how well respected they are as coaches, because Leonard is the more respected coach and is somebody that I like more. But the way that I would look at it is, when the Raiders kept Patrick Graham and they kept Rob Leonard, we were all sitting there going, nice. Like, that's that cherry on top. And it's just, again, Raiders are doing the right things this offseason. When you bring in somebody like Joe Woods, then you also bring in his Rob Leonard and Marcus Robinson, that makes the loss of Gerlad Alexander and Ricky Manning Jr. to me just a little bit easier. So for those of you that don't know, Marcus Robinson was the Saints DB coach the past 2 years. Before that, he was with the Arizona Cardinals from 2019 to 2022. Broncos DB coach in 2017 to 2018. So again, more Joe Woods overlap there. Raiders DB coach from 2015 to 2026, and then the Raiders assistant defensive backs coach in 2014. I like that type of stuff, and I like that type of stuff when the Raiders were able to bring their own guys back. But again, the more important thing there is you don't look at it as, yeah, we lost Gerlad Alexander and Ricky Manning Jr., but you need to look at it as we brought in Joe Woods and Marcus Robertson, who have worked together and put together some good defensive back staffs. I mean, let's just look at the Saints when healthy. And I know Marshawn Lattimore isn't there anymore. He was with the Commanders. But Marshawn Lattimore in 2023 and in 2024, when healthy, and this basically been his career, his entire career, when he's healthy, he's one of the better corners out in the NFL. What about Kool-Aid McKinstry, right? I remember sitting there on draft day late last year, and I couldn't be happier that we got JPJ. But a lot of us were like, all right, well, if the Raiders didn't draft a corner like we maybe thought that they were going to do at 13, we ended up going Brock Bowers. Again, another great pick there. But a lot of us were like, Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a great pick. The Saints jump up in front of us. They end up taking Kool-Aid. Another name, though, for somebody that I think that they've done a good job with is Paulson Adebo. And quite frankly, when you look at the Raiders and their current cornerback situation, Paulson Adebo, I'm just going to say this right now, is a sneaky name that the Raiders could potentially bring in. He's 25 years old. He has played slot and on the outside. I would envision him more as an outside guy for the Raiders, but again, maybe there's a different plan for him if he ends up coming in. I bring that up because Jack Jones is a big old question mark. Nate Hobbs is hitting free agency. Darnay Holmes is a free agent, but it's Darnay Holmes. Let's be real. If you're the Raiders and you need to be able to replace somebody, I wouldn't look at the replacement for Nate Hobbs is Adebo. I would look at the replacement for Jack Jones is Paulson Adebo. But with all these moves going on, there's a lot of replacements that are about to come in, right? There's a lot of turnover. We've already seen it. And for the silver and black, you got some big decisions to make with all of our new front office executives. I also love that Pete Carroll is kind of known for being that secondary DB. That's where he's really made his bread and butter. And I think it's probably one of the areas that he's the most respected of being a true defensive-minded coach is in that secondary game. So let's talk about the Raiders secondary because you got Marcus Epps, Trevon Merrick, Isaiah Pola-Mao, Sam Webb, Nate Hobbs, and Darnay Holmes. They are all free agents, okay? This show's about playing games once in a while, and I'm going to ask you all a question, and this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show. While you're getting hit with a YouTube ad break, I want you to scroll on down, and I want you to pick two of the names that I bring up here. Epps, Merrick, Pola-Mao, Sam Webb, Nate Hobbs, Darnay Holmes. You can only pick two. Which of those two names are you picking? My answer is coming up right here in just a moment. The two names that I'm going to go with are not the two most talented names that I mentioned. They're going to be the two names that I believe help us make the most dollars and cents building a roster, but then also just make the most sense. I'm going to go Trevon Merrick, and I'm going to go Isaiah Pola-Mao. To me, right there, that can be your starting safety duo. I mean, it really can be. Merrick is a great young safety in the NFL. Can do multiple things out there. I'll be really curious to see what type of contract he could potentially get. I've seen floated out there north of 14 to 15 mil. That kind of surprises me. To me, Merrick's going to be more around that $10 to $12 million figure. Epps is a hell of a player, but he's 29 years old coming off an ACL. And even though Epps is a dog, now I just saw on Spytek that his market value is $2 million. If Marcus Epps' contract value is $2 million, I might change my answer on that. I just don't think it's only going to be $2 million. I see him probably getting somewhere, around the $4 or $5 million mark. The reason why I bring back Isaiah Pola-Mao, though, is because he's not the unrestricted free agent. If the Raiders want to bring him back at the vet minimum, they're going to be able to do that. So knowing that, let's just bring him back on the vet min. You get Isaiah Pola-Mao, who's got some good experience. And if you also want to bring in another safety on top of that, you have the flexibility to do it. I'm going to be real. I wouldn't even be mad if the Raiders wanted to bring back Epps, Pola-Mao, and Merrick. Quite frankly, you might be able to get all three of those players for about $16 million. And for a team that's got 92.3 in salary cap space, that's a good option. Now, a lot of y'all are going to go, wow, I can't believe you're not bringing back Nate Hobbs. And it's not that I don't want to bring back Nate Hobbs. I do want to bring back Nate Hobbs. I would love to bring back a healthy Hobbs. But that's the biggest question mark. Can we trust Hobbs to stay healthy? I don't know what the answer to that is. But to me, what I would at least do is I would at least entertain some other ideas out there with some other players that we could potentially bring in. And you know what? Maybe we miss out on Hobbs. But I'll tell you this right now. If you're able to go out, maybe sign a Paulson Adebo, maybe you're able to go out and draft a Will Johnson at number 6. Hobbs has done a lot of great stuff, and I know he's a Raider, and I know he wants to remain a Raider. But at the same time, if you can make upgrades, man, you got to try to go out there, and you got to try to make some upgrades. Now, I did say that the good news, which we are going to get to some good news here, the Raiders also moved on from a few other people in their front office. I'll tell you who the Raiders moved on from in their front office. I'll also tell you what this good news is because it's around one of our best players, and when I say one of them, I think it's around our best player on our team. Before I get into that, though, huge shout out to our sponsor here, PrizePicks, the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. I've been saying it all season long. Here's the thing. We got one game left, and it's the big game. They're already going to give you a free one with Patrick Mahomes. You know he's going to throw for 1 passing yard, so you might as well take the more on it. If you need some help on some other, player more or lesses, I am releasing a video tomorrow where I'm going to tell all y'all how to turn $20 into $500. And if you want to turn 40 into 1,000, you can get creative. I'm just only going to put 20 on it. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That link's down in the comments. It's in the description of today's show. Hopefully also everyone pulls up tomorrow for the big game. And again, you're going to watch it. Just put like $5 on it. I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to be way, way more involved in the game. All right, so let's talk about some of these coaches front office execs that were let go. So the Raiders let go of Senior Director of Player Personnel JoJo Wooden and Senior National Scout Dujuan Daniels. I'm going to be real. I'm not going to sit up here and poke holes in either one of these guys. Wooden joined the staff in 2024 under GM Tom Telesco. So I understand why the Raiders moved on from him. And then Daniels has been with the team since 2019. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know Daniels very well. But if there's one thing that I know is I go back and I look at the Raiders draft since 2019. And we found some good players later on. We did, no doubt about it. We also pissed away so many first-round picks since 2019, it ain't even funny, right? Like Cleveland Ferrell, Jacobs was by far our best first-round pick, but, still he's not on the team right now. So Jacobs, Jonathan Abram, Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett, Alex Leatherwood, Tyree Wilson. The first-round picks have been kind of, shooting us in the foot a little bit. And, yeah, we've been able to find, later, steals. And a Maxx Crosby, a Hunter Renfrow, Amik Robertson was a good pick. But, again, none of these players are really on our team anymore. So I go back and I look at what the Raiders have done in the draft since 2019. And, quite frankly, I can't believe anybody from 2019 that really handles a lot of draft stuff is still around. And I'm happy, though, because sometimes difficult decisions are needed to be made, and the Raiders are making a lot of difficult decisions, but they're just showing you that they're not effing around this offseason. They're getting ready to get the job done, and I love what they're doing. But you know what? I'm not the only one who loves what they're doing. Maxx Crosby also loves what the Raiders are doing this offseason, and our chat sports team is down there at Media Row for the Super Bowl, and they're actually coming back today. We're going to be doing a lot of watch parties over the weekend. I bet you at Chat Sports, and I'm not even kidding you when I say this, I bet you Chat Sports this weekend, we probably do close to 2 to 3 million views overall. Also, I don't know why Chugs is FaceTiming me, so hang on a second here. I'm making a vid. What's going on? Let's get them.
Do you want one?
Yeah, just get them, and if we got to put it on the company card, that's fine.
Oh, I can?
Actually, just put it on my card, and then we'll figure it out.
I was going to say, I'll
just buy it, and I'll Venmo you.
Okay, yeah, you just want one?
Yeah.
All right, yeah, it's $15 for a 30-pack, so I was like...
Tell them, pull up tomorrow for the live. This is going to be in the cut, by the way. I'm telling you.
Hey, pull up tomorrow for the live.
All right, I got to go. Spam chugs down below, and sometimes you're just going to get that type of stuff. It's all good. But again, we're getting Celsius. It's going to be wild. But seriously, though, Maxx Crosby, he also loves what the Raiders are doing this offseason. And obviously, there was a lot of speculation, and myself included. I was somebody before that said the Raiders are never going to trade Maxx Crosby. I also have made videos this offseason, said if there was an offseason that it could happen, it could potentially be this one. And there's a lot of things that still need to happen. Max needs to get a contract extension. Two packs of Celsius. You and Chuck need them too. But here's what Max had to say, okay? Max had this to say. And he was at Media Row. He was talking to a lot of different people. And I get it. Like, sometimes certain things are said, sometimes certain things aren't said. But I almost find it funny where if Max would have, even in the slightest been like, I don't know about the Raiders, think about how much attention it would have got. But because Max literally was like, I love everything that the Raiders are doing, I don't really feel like it got all that much attention. So here's what Maxx Crosby had to say at Media Row. I've had doubts in the past. Feel like it's been the past few years was the hardest part of my career. Battling through injury the whole year, struggling, losing 10 games in a row. Up here, it makes you start questioning a lot of things. And I don't doubt Maxx Crosby, right? Like, we also have been questioning a lot of things that this organization is doing. And it's one of the things that I almost find funny where when people at times yell at me, they're like, Mitch, you've been so negative. I mean, I haven't had a lot to be excited about, right? And, Maxx Crosby probably hasn't a lot to be excited about. But here's what I love that Max said, okay? Max went on to say that the arrival of Pete Carroll and new general manager John Spytek, along with Tom Brady's presence and ownership, make him the most optimistic that I've been since I've been a part of this franchise. Maxx Crosby this weekend said it's the most optimistic that he's been about the Raiders franchise since joining the team. That is a huge statement Crosby made. And I know Max wants to be a Raider for life. I think deep down all Raider fans know that Max wants to be a Raider for life. But at the same time, man to man, friend to friend, colleague to colleague, however you want to look at it, you could also understand Maxx Crosby being frustrated by the way that this team has gone, by the way the organization has been operated, by, you just not winning games. Like, for somebody that's probably done a lot of winning, and I get it, Eastern Michigan, blah, 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 like here and there, but this is still somebody who looks at themselves as the top percentile, the 1%. And legends, I think Max wants to take that career to that next point, and he knows he's going to go down in the history books as one of the greatest Raiders of all time. But how do you go down as a true legend, right? And I always say you die twice. You die when you die, and you die the last time somebody says your name. Max wants to be around for an eternity, and he's going to keep working his butt off until he does it. But the fact that he said that this is the most optimistic he's ever been about the Raiders, and sure, that doesn't guarantee winning. It doesn't guarantee winning. But what I think it does guarantee is the Raiders and Max getting a contract done this offseason. And I say that because he wants to get a deal done. He doesn't have any more guarantees. He's made that very clear and obvious. But if you're the most optimistic that you've ever been, I would imagine that you're going to get that contract done. And if that extension happens, I would also imagine that it's probably going to happen before free agency ends up happening. Now, maybe Max is going to do something which players just don't usually do of Crosby status because if you're Maxx Crosby and you want an extension, you get that extension done before your team goes out and spends all that money in free agency, goes out and spends it, elsewhere. Like, you get your money now. Like, that's what teams and players do. I don't think Max is going to wait and then be like in June, sit back and look at the Raiders roster and go, well, actually, you know what? That's not a team that I like. Then I'm going to ask to get out. That's not going to happen. That's just not what happens. So to me, based on Max saying that this is the most optimistic he's ever been, you're damn right I'm feeling pretty good about the Raiders getting a contract done with Max. Here's the one thing, though, and I want all Raider fans to keep this, a little bit just in the back of your mind. The light bulb, keep it, just keep it there. For those that don't know, March 11th is probably the most important day for Max, maybe outside of his, birth of his daughter. March 11th is, so he's got, for those that don't know, he's got tatted on his hand 3/11/20. It's the day that he started his sobriety, and he's very passionate about that. And March 11th is like a super, super important day to Crosby. And I can't stress that enough, because I almost wonder, based on history and based on Maxx, and I say this, and again, like, we just got to take a chill pill when we're sitting here going, oh my God, are the Raiders ever going to extend Crosby? If it was up to me, I would do it the week after the Super Bowl, right? Like, the week after the Super Bowl, you extend Crosby, and then you start planning forward. However, though, if there's an organization that might do things a little bit different to keep their star players happy, I could see Mark doing it with the Raiders, or Mark doing it with Maxx, just because of how good their relationship is. But there also has to be that trust factor. Kind of sounds like Maxx trusts the Raiders right now in what they're doing. So, Mitch, get to your point. Where are you going with this? If the Raiders don't have an extension done with Maxx Crosby by the start of NFL free agency, I know that people are going to panic. The start of NFL free agency is March 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a Tuesday, okay? We will be live for all of free agency. But at the same time, the last time Crosby signed his extension was March 11th, okay? And I don't know if it's going to happen. This is me just connecting dots. This is me taking an educated guess, which is a lot of times what I do on this show. I'm not a reporter. I know it's called the Raiders Report, but that's because that's what we called the show back in 2018. I'm not a reporter. I'm somebody that takes educated guesses. And my educated guess here, and this also a reminder to the nation, it's also, if I start panicking in March, if I start panicking right before free agency and I'm sitting there going, I don't know if they're going to extend him, I want people to remember this video, because Maxx signed his extension March 11th in 2022 when he signed that 4-year deal, $94 million, worth up to $98.98 million. Okay, like, Maxx is just, that's the way Crosby thinks. Like, he is just such a detail-oriented guy where he goes, I want a $98.98 million deal, right? On March 11th, a very important day. So the fact that free agency starts the day after, if Maxx doesn't have a deal done on March 12th, I'm going to panic. But if it's March 10th, and there's still not a deal done, in the back of my mind, I'm going to remember this video. I'm going to remember that he's optimistic, and I'm going to remember how important March 11th is to Maxx Crosby, and I hope the rest of the nation remembers that day as well. And again, I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope that the deal happens sooner, but it is just remember, break glass in case of emergency, because every day that goes on that Maxx isn't extended, people are going to wonder, is he going to be a part of this team for the long haul? All right, y'all, I am getting ready to get on out of here. Chuck and I and Alex, we're getting ready to go for a walk, so it's going to be a fun day here. It's supposed to be like 80-something degrees in Dallas, which is wild. But the big game is tomorrow, Eagles-Chiefs. I got to know, who you got? We're going to be rolling with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going to go Philly 31-28. It goes against everything that I believe in, picking against Mahomes, picking against Andy Reid. And if I was a true, betting man, if I had to bet my house on it, I'm not going to lie, I don't know if I would go against Mahomes. They've won 15 straight one-score games. But at the same time, I think that the Eagles, from top to bottom, are a better football team. I really do. And this almost just feels like the year of the running back. It almost feels like it's the year of Saquon Barkley. And I just don't want the Chiefs to win again. So give me the Eagles, fly, 31-28. But I am going to say that Jalen Hurts is going to win MVP. And that's just because of the way that the awards go, right? Like, it seems like every year a quarterback gets it. In fact, I want to say in the last 15 years, I think this is right. It's like the last 15 years, the Super Bowl MVPs, none of them have been running backs. It's been 11 quarterbacks, 2 defensive players, and then 2 wide receivers on top of that. So for Saquon, I don't know. I'll tell you this. Could be an interesting one to go with. Big game tomorrow, man. Philly, make sure you get a win. Maxx is the good news. Sounds like he's optimistic. Hopefully that deal gets done. To the coaches and staff members that the Raiders moved on from, I'll always wish you the best. To Joe Woods and Marcus Robinson, let's make sure that secondary is locked down here for Raiders. If you want even more content around the silver and black, make sure you hit that subscribe button right here. I promise you, I got you covered. If you're looking for even more news, more content, we got more videos up here. Also, there's 3 videos that I put in the description and the comments of every video if you want to check out even more. If this one or this one isn't your cup of tea, for me, I'm more of a coffee drinker. So if these don't work for you, hopefully we can find something else when you click that subscribe button.